Peter Thomas Fornatale here at beautiful Santa Anita Park. So happy to be covering the Breeders' Cup for Sky Sports Racing and at the races this week. We've got a fabulous team, 2/3 of which are here. The third member is currently somewhere over Iowa, I think. Vanessa Ryle will be here with us tomorrow, but I'm thrilled to be joined by Michelle Yu. Michelle, how are things?
I'm good, but I'm going to be more excited when Vanessa gets here.
I don't blame you. That's reasonable.
I can't wait. Her and I, we are waiting to meet in person.
Oh, you guys have never actually had that?
I don't think so.
All right, well, there you go. It's going to be, I'm a little scared about the worlds colliding, but we'll make it work. Breeders' Cup at Santa Anita, it's such a great host venue for this event. What do you think makes that so?
I think just the perfect mix that Santa Anita has, right? We've got a lot of modern, but we've got a lot of historic feel here. Also the size and the capacity that our venue holds. I mean, plus, the backdrop here is just phenomenal. There is a backdrop unlike any other one that you've seen worldwide. I mean, the palm trees and the mountains are so quintessential to Santa Anita, and I think it makes it just such a special feeling. But overall, we're just really well equipped to have big crowds and a lot of horses here.
And another thing that's great is just the geography and the way it seems to really agree with horses from all around the world.
Well, the horses part, maybe. People love to come to LA. That's the worst part for me. When people come in, they're like, let's go to LA. And I'm like, oh, haven't you heard about Monrovia? It's so much better. Let's just hang out in Monrovia.
There's
go to Hollywood.
There's some great food here in the San Gabriel Valley. But seriously, what a crack level of international competition we have. And I do think Santa Anita contributes to that, especially when it comes to our Japanese contenders.
Certainly, the flight over here is much easier, I feel like, for the Japanese contingent, and they've settled in here really, really well. We've been seeing a ton of them this particular week, so I think it's great. And, we've had an international stamp as far as the Japanese horses go for many, many years back here at Santa Anita. So we have a great partnership with some of the racetracks over in Japan, and I think that it just kind of folds into a big day like this being able to be here.
As great as all the turf racing is at the Breeders' Cup, for me, the event very much defined by the Breeders' Cup Classic. I think that's fair to say even to our international audience. And this year's race, we've gotten some news in the last few days that the complexion changing a little bit with the news of Go Rocket Ride's unfortunate injury, won't be competing. Also now we know that Mawj will not be competing. Spike to Fever, they're going to point ahead to the Pegasus. It's still a pretty interesting clash of generations in terms of having still the two at the top of the market, Arabian Knight. I always make sure I get the right Arabian Knight, and
I just call it the Baffert horse.
and Arcangelo against some pretty, maybe even underrated elders. How are you seeing the Classic shape up at this point? What's the main storyline for you in the Classic?
Well, I think that Arabian Knight has been working just sensationally over here. We've watched him work, the last couple of months, obviously, but the last 3 weeks especially. He actually put in his final moves today, and I didn't get to see it, the whole thing. I only saw what was in front of me, but what was in front of me was as expected from a Bob Baffert trainee. He looked sensational. Coming out to the track, he looked really good. The last couple of sophomores that have won have all been Bob Baffert horses. So he's trying to do it in a, I think, 5th career start, which is going to be a challenge, but if there's someone that's going to do it, it's probably going to be Bob. We do still have some good older horses. I know Chad Brown was really high on Zandon coming in here, and we got to see him for the first time today. And Ushba Tesoro has been the talk of the town. Every single person that's seen him go to the track, that saw him work, has been talking about him with all positives until today. Today was the first day we had a little bit of a dark mark on his report.
Interesting. Well, you know what? Hold that thought, because we're going to go to another segment, and then we'll be back with you at the end of this little show. PTF at Santa Anita with Cherie Devaux. Sheree, how's your week going so far?
So far, it's going well. Just been running on empty. The first couple hours we were here, it was rough, but everybody settled in, and I think the horses have shipped in and settled in a lot better than the humans.
That's often the case, I think. I want to talk to you about your 3 runners at this year's Breeders' Cup, starting with Stage Raider. What have we been seeing from him of late?
He's doing really well. He's a horse that we got in. He's different than the other 2 that we've had since they started their career as career racing. But he's in a really good form. He's in a good place mentally, which is where he was deficient when he first came in. But he's doing really well, and he looks fantastic.
Let's talk about more than looks. I was really impressed by the last race. You see this sometimes with 3-year-olds at a certain point in the season. They just seem to get better and better, and sometimes there's no telling where that improvement is going to stop. Right. When I look at more than looks as PP, I'm seeing a little bit of that kind of thing. What's this one like to be around, and how has he progressed from your point of view?
So he's been a tricky one, not because he's difficult, but he's been really green.
Before we were so rudely interrupted by the tractor, we were talking about more than looks and how he's progressing.
So, as I said, the horse was a little cheeky and immature mentally. In his races, that was definitely apparent. He would make his run, and he doesn't like to run inside of horses. When Christian rode him his allowance race, he tried that. The horse won't run inside. And then when he does make his run, he waits a minute and looks or leans on horses. But in his last race in the Jefferson Cup, where he came home really impressively at 22 and change, it was the first time that I think we had seen him just put his head down and made that run, and it was so impressive. And we really weren't pointing to this. We were light on points because we were just trying to let him mature and show us when he was ready to come onto the stage. But with a performance like that, it's hard to not justify coming here to try. So, it worked out where he will get in, and we're just happy to give him the opportunity.
He earned it, I would say. And, as a late season 3-year-old, maybe another move forward? What do you think?
He definitely shows that it's in his wheelhouse, and he was way far off the pace at Churchill, and coming around the turn, even the call, he was about 10 lengths or at the 3/8 pole, and then when he straightened up and he took off, it was just so impressive to watch. So if he can do that again, it would be really exciting for us, even if he doesn't win, but just to make that run and be there at the end would be gratifying.
I was fortunate to be at Woodbine for the Natalma and got to witness that breathtaking run from She Feels Pretty, getting you a grade 1 success. And this is the one I've had a lot of people ask me specifically about. Oh, she looks like the one. What can you tell us about Cherie Devaux? And I've been, giving some of the background about how you've learned the game and how respected you are within the industry. And I've just said the trainer is no concern as far as this one goes. How's the horse doing?
She is doing amazing. She's a filly where, I talk a lot about mental maturity, and she's been there since day one. Now, she lacked in the physical, and she's continuing to improve physically. You look at her, and she's a really big filly, especially at 2. There's a lot to her, but there's a lot of growing that she still needs to do. But mentally, she's right there. And she worked, when she worked on Friday, it was awesome. I try to maintain my own expectations, and that was a wow. She started off in 25. She came home 47 and 4, galloped out a minute flat out in 12 for a turf horse, a 2-year-old turf horse.
Yeah.
That's
Racehorse
not really a move. And the rider was just sitting against her, trying to keep her from doing more than that. So just really excited to see her go out there. Not concerned about it being 2 turns or, there's been a lot of questions about what I'm worried about. Johnny can basically do whatever he wants with her because she's just so mature that way. And I think she'll, as long as he works out a trip, it's his race to try to win.
All right, great stuff. So happy to have you here today and look forward to seeing you throughout the week.
Sounds great.
PTF back with Michelle Yu at beautiful Santa Anita. Now we're going to drill down into some of the specifics of what you saw out here today. You made a little hint that maybe somebody wasn't on their best behavior this morning. Tell us that story.
Yeah, so Ushba Tesoro actually went to the starting gate today, and he was not a happy camper. So they had originally tried to load him into an outside starting stall. He kind of, they had to open the gate up, and he was just not comfortable. Hearing from Kate Hunter later, what happened was our gates are just situated a little bit differently than any of the foreign gates that he has been in before, and they hit a little bit higher. So they hit you just around the haunch area on him, and it was very ticklish. So he was not happy. He got really squirmy. They brought him back out. They tried to load him in, and he was just refusing to go in. after that initial tickle. So what they're going to do is they are going to bring him back tomorrow. They didn't want to mess with him anymore today, and they're going to affix pads to the gate, and hopefully that will help just give him like a more full pressure sensation, and they drop down a little bit lower than our gates currently do. So that's the reason that we do schooling, because all these gates in different countries are manufactured by different people, and they're made for different size horses. So you want to make sure you bring your horse to the starting gate to school. I don't think it's required per se, but the starting crew would love to see every single Breeders' Cup horse beforehand, just in case they do have any quirks or need special handling.
That's fantastic insight. Is this the kind of situation where sometimes they'd use a blanket? I guess these pads are instead of that. In your experience as a horse person, is this something that's easily overcomable? Is this a real hiccup to you, or just something that's going to be dealt with in the course of time?
I guess we'll see tomorrow, right? I mean, one time if he didn't like something, and they can try and remedy that. So tomorrow will be a little bit more clear, because now they're going to try and remedy what was wrong today. Now, if tomorrow he still doesn't like the situation that they have come up with, that's going to be a little bit more indicative of what's going to happen on race day, because this is going to be the starting gate situation that he's dealt with. So tomorrow, I think, is going to be a really key moment for him.
Excellent. Yeah. And any idea what time do they bring him out? I'd love to get a look at that in person.
I think they brought him out sometime around like 8:15ish today. The hard thing with the Japanese horses is they come out and they do about 40 minutes of warm up before they do anything. So like Songline comes on the track, she goes in the paddock, she goes for a walk around, she walks around the chute here for eons. She goes back up to the barn, and then they go and train. So you'll see them like 4 or 5 times and be like, are they going out? Not yet. Are they going out? Oh, not yet. So it's been a little bit of a guessing game as to what time they're actually going to do something.
We're going to have you here all week, so there's no pressure to get to too much in this segment, but I am curious if anybody else caught your eye or there was any other notable drama out here at Santa Anita this morning.
So this morning was pretty calm. We had the majority of our workers did go on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, so that was all kind of, done except for the 2 Baffert horses today. A lot of horses did return to the track today, but there was no other, nothing exciting really going on. We did get to see our first look at the Todd Pletcher and the Chad Brown horses, but everybody pretty much just jogged, so again, not too much. Mawj looked fantastic.
Oh, that's good to know. Mawj was a little bit keen in the prep race at Keeneland. I'm curious, is that just her, or was that maybe blowing off some rust? And I think a little bit more relaxed Mawj might even be able to go better in the mile.
So I'm not sure if that's just her or not, but I can tell you that when she's been here, she has had a horse to be behind. And when she was out this morning, she had, as Andy Biancone so eloquently put it, a wall of butts to keep her back. So they had a couple of horses and they kept her behind, but it did not turn a hair on her. Some horses will get really resentful, especially because they're getting dirt in their face. And she was like, no problem, I'll be behind here. So they kept her behind her workmate the entire time, took her to the starting gate and school in the gate as well.
Any other particular standouts or anything you saw today that we should share with our At the Races Sky Sports Racing audience?
Today? No, not today.
Okay. Well, that's why we've got you here all week. We're going to see what happens. We're going to see as it develops. I think the Breeders' Cup is one of these events, more than any other, where it's so important to get these daily updates on the condition of these animals, because there's just not that much separating them. And what we see out here in the morning can make a very big difference. Michelle, so happy to have you, and we'll let you get on with your day.
Thanks, PTF. Appreciate it.